I am Professor Cox, the digital avatar of Stan Cox, who writes every script that I present. In this presentation, I will be reviewing the book on the Incarnation, which was written by St. Athanasius the Great, and this particular edition of the book includes an introduction by C.S. Lewis. On December 25th of every year, Christians celebrate what is arguably the most important event in human history. It was almost 35 years after my first profession of faith that I began to come to a more complete understanding of the significance of that event. I, like many contemporary Christians, spent years knowing virtually nothing of the early development of the church apart from what I read in the book of Acts and Paul's epistles. Eventually, I joined a faith community that emphasized early Christian history and writings of the early church fathers, and my perspective on many things began to change. One of the most important changes was my perspective on Christ's incarnation, that it was so much more than the abstract idea of his being fully man and fully God. I discovered that the essential goal of the Christian life was not to escape judgment, but to be transformed into the image and likeness of God, which is our true essence, and that this is achieved by participating in the Incarnation, not as an abstract theological concept, but as a daily spiritual reality. The aforementioned enlightenment came to fruition thanks to Athanasius' seminal work on the Incarnation. In fact, if I were asked what I thought was the most important work describing the essence of the Christian faith, apart from the scriptures themselves, this would be my recommendation. Athanasius was raised in Alexandria in Egypt and was discovered at a young age, and with his parents' permission, he became Bishop Alexander's protege. It was readily apparent that Athanasius had wisdom and spiritual insight beyond his years, coinciding with his emergence. In AD 318, the Alexandrian presbyter Arius began promoting a version of Christianity that denied Christ's divinity and consequently the doctrine of the Trinity as well. It became popular with members of the Roman military, Gothic mercenaries, and members of the Roman nobility in that it provided a version of Christianity that was less offensive to Roman emperors who had persecuted and martyred thousands of Orthodox Christians who were believed to pose a threat to their authority. It is generally believed that On the Incarnation was written while Athanasius was still young, before the promotion of the Arian heresy, and that it most likely influenced the direction Alexander and other Christian bishops in the drafting and wording of the Nicene Creed. Although it was officially labeled a heresy, Arianism continued to have significant influence in the West as it provided an impotent form of Christianity that posed no threat to succeeding Roman authority. Athanasius continued to stand firm in Christ's incarnation and the doctrine of the Trinity after he succeeded Alexander as Bishop of Alexandria and suffered 5 separate exiles in the desert, lasting a total of 17 years, yet he never wavered. All Trinitarian Christians owe a huge debt to St. Athanasius the Great. To this day, there is no better articulation of nature and significance of the Incarnation than this inspirational writing. I highly recommend the edition of On the Incarnation, which includes the preface and introduction written by C.S. Lewis. In the prologue, Lewis makes the case for the importance of modern readers to read the writings of classical antiquity, and especially of the early church fathers. He demonstrates how limited and sometimes skewed and self-serving our contemporary perspective often is. His introduction fully unpacks the aspects of Christ's incarnation, which we often overlook and which St. Athanasius illuminates. If you appreciate this type of material, please give the video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. This is Professor Cox saying thank you for sharing your time with me.